Hello everyone and welcome to Sky Shadow. Welcome to another episode of our F1 22 My Team Career Mode, and this time we are at Austria. So this one, once again, has a sprint race, so if we do terrible in qualifying, we will have a few laps to try and make up for it. As you can see here, we've got a few resource points as well, so we're just putting on a few developments there, including a durability development, because we can't really ignore them. As much as we would rather make our car faster, we don't want loads of DNF, so we do have to do those every now and then. We had this aero upgrade fail, unfortunately, but we had enough to be able to put it back on, but it won't come until the race, well, until after Austria, so it won't come on for this race, unfortunately. On the development chart, we are pretty much exactly where we were last race, apart from the fact that Haas and McLaren have made a little bit of progress towards us, but we will see where we can put the car in qualifying. So into qualifying here, obviously every qualifying session is important, but for these races that have sprint races, they are perhaps just a tiny little bit less important, because like I said, if we do a terrible job in normal quali, we do have a few laps in the sprint to try and make up for it. Typically this car, as we know, has been, at least for us, quite a bit of a better race pace car than it has a quali car. So that does help us in the sprint race. As you see, we actually get ourselves a little bit of floor damage as we go across that curb, so we have to be careful there. Our first time was a 105.9, with our teammates being a 105.1. So we are going to have to find ourselves a little bit of time here. Again, this gameplay was pre-patch, so pre the AI straight line speed patch. So through the traction zones, like coming up that uphill right-hander, the AI are so much quicker than us, it's crazy. But we've still managed to find ourselves at about 4 tenths so far. We might be able to move that up to 5 tenths by the time we cross the line. We'll have to see. Put the power down, DRS, and across the line, like I say, 5 tenths we gain, but that only takes us to 105.4, which only puts us to P13 with our teammate, obviously P7. One thing I forgot to mention, this is a short qualifying. I did that just because obviously we have to sprint, so I didn't want to spend too much time just trying to get the car qualified. And we crossed the line with a P17 in total, only a 105.2 and our teammate a 104.5. So yeah, let's see what we can do in the sprint.
Welcome to today's sprint. This is shaping up to be another fantastic weekend.
So, into the sprint race, we have a lot of work to do. We have got to try and get our car to the positions where it should be, along with our teammate, Jensen Button, around the sort of, 5th, 6th, 7th positions is where we're trying to go. But we get a pretty decent start. We're already making our way past Vettel and Schumacher. Side by side here with Vettel, so he has got a slightly better exit than us, but we put down the ERS, and we should hopefully be able to get that position back. But they're going 3 wide into the uphill right-hander there, and we decide to back out of that because we do not want to be caught up in any carnage there. So we're back down to 16th, but Vettel and Ricciardo are fighting very, very hard, so we send it down the inside of them, which is always a bit risky there, and we actually make a bit of contact with Sebastian Vettel. I'm not sure if that's caused any issues for him, but we managed to come out of it without any sort of damage, which is pretty good. There's more action going on ahead of us. 3 wide, 4 wide, who knows? But they are fighting very, very hard, which is very good for us. Lap 2, we've already moved up to P13, so we are closing in on the top 10 positions as Bottas goes over to the right, and obviously he was entering the pits, but that causes us some issues as we were trying to get past, I think that was Ricciardo. Here's a replay. He just goes over there and obviously he brakes for the pits and we don't anticipate it, so we have to brake, and that could have caused a fair bit of carnage for ourselves. Obviously, things to bear in mind on a sprint race, is, yes, we want to be aggressive to try and get ourselves up in the race, but I mean, you do get some points in the sprint, I guess, but the main big points that we earn are for the race. So we don't want to take ourselves out of the sprint qualifying, because then we'll start at the back of the race, and that is not very good, as there is a yellow flag up ahead. Is that someone DNF'd or made a mistake or something? As, there we go. It's Jensen Button, our teammate. Just as I was saying, we do not want to have ourselves go out of the sprint race. Our teammate ends up doing it with a engine failure. So, like I say, that is exactly why we are putting durability upgrades on, because that is causing us issues. We've already had, well, to be fair, I think we've actually only had one DNF ourselves, but Jensen, that's probably, I actually don't know, but at least his second, I think. Obviously, he crashed himself out of Baku qualifying, as that was a pretty decent 360 from the AlphaTauri there, as the other AlphaTauri comes into the side of us and takes off his wing. So that's us up a couple of positions more, because of absolute madness going on up ahead of us with that AlphaTauri. So end of lap 5, we find ourselves in P8, which is just crazy. I mean, we've gone from, what, P17 all the way up to P8. Obviously, a few guys have had damage, our teammate out of the race, so we have gained from that. But yeah, I really didn't expect to be going that high up. As you see, onto lap 7, we actually decide to slow down and make sure that we cross that DRS line before Norris. No, not before, after Norris, so then we pick up the DRS there. So playing some pretty dirty tactics to try and stay ahead of the McLaren, because that McLaren, especially in the hands of Lando Norris, is a very fast car. And so is the Alpine of Alonso ahead of us. However, they are like 4 seconds ahead of us, and we've got, 4 laps pretty much. So unless we can find a second lap pace from somewhere, I do not think that we are going to be able to fight them, unfortunately. So P8 is pretty much going to be the best that we can do, but it's going to be tricky to keep P8. I think P8, 9 is going to be fine because Gasly is miles behind, but like I say, Norris is being a bit of a thorn in our side. As here we go on to an outboard shot here, as does he try and go for a move? He does. He goes around the outside of us, which is not the conventional spot to try and overtake, and we squeeze him out because we are not going to afford him any room at all, because we do not want him past us, because he's going for it again here, up our inside this time, and he clips himself across the curb there. I don't know if he got himself any underfloor damage like we did in qualifying, but that means that we were able to complete the old switcheroo. As we watch a replay of it here, we break that a little bit earlier, let him go in deep, and we are able to get that back. But this fight is not over, because he is still trying to get past us on our outside once again into the uphill section. And we actually get a warning for collision there, which is probably deserved, to be honest. We are being very, very aggressive here at pushing him as wide as we possibly can, but we need to. And on to lap 12. Norris has got one final opportunity in this DRS section to try to get past us, but he's just not close enough to go for an inside dive bomb there, as we actually get a pretty terrible exit there, and that allows Norris to get very, very close. But I mean, he's not going to go side by side through this S section, is he? That would not be good. He might try and send it down the inside going into these last section of corners. We actually cover the inside just in case he does. He takes the outside line there, but once again we give him the big squeeze, and onto this final corner we get the ERS on and cross the line in P8.
Alright, race over, take care of the car on the way in.
There we go, final result, P8 for ourselves. Leclerc signs, they keep their position. Max Verstappen manages to get himself up a position at the expense of George Russell. And Alonso manages to get himself from 10th to 7th. But, like I say, we get ourselves from 17th to 8th. So that is going to set ourselves up very nicely for the race. Just a bit unfortunate that our teammate is going to be starting from the back.
Good afternoon and welcome to Spielberg and to a circuit that in one form or the other has held every Austrian Grand Prix in the championship except the very first back in 1964. It was at this race that John Watson lost a bet and his beard when he took Team Penske's only F1 victory in 1976. If anything, the stakes are even higher today, with 25 points available for victory and a crucial advantage in the championship fight. The Spielberg circuit then is situated 700 metres above sea level, with just 10 corners making up one of the shortest laps of the season. One time around here is a distance of around 2.6 miles, with the best overtaking chances into turn 1 or the tight uphill turn 3. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole. A very happy Carlos Sainz will start second. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Russell, Sir Lewis Hamilton and Perez, Fernando Alonso, Paul, Norris and Daniel Ricciardo, Ocon, Magnussen, Alex Albon and Latifi, Mick Schumacher, Tsunoda, Sebastian Vettel and Pierre Gasly. Stroll, Joe, Button and Valtteri Bottas begins the race from the back of the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
So our teammate doesn't quite start from the back because Bottas has got a penalty, so he starts in 21st, but isn't going to make much of a difference. The usual strategy, of course, mediums to hards, and we get a purple park in there, so that is going to help us at the start. And it's lights out and away we go. Looks like the Ferrari at the front managed to get himself a pretty decent start, so he is going to be leading this race, I suspect, as there is carnage going on everywhere. Up ahead of us, we end up sending a McLaren wide as well. I think we have managed to stay out of any sort of damage there, but we've got a Alpine trying to come down our outside, and we actually end up sending it down the inside of George Russell there, who was just braking really slowly for whatever reason. And we are up into... Oh, that was Hamilton, actually, not George Russell. I keep forgetting because of the yellow T-cam that Hamilton has nowadays. But that is us up into P7, so we have gained a position at the expense of Sir Lewis Hamilton there. Ahead of us is Alonso, which on paper we should be faster than. But whether we can actually try and close up to him is another question, because we are going to be fighting very aggressively with Hamilton here, as it doesn't matter anyway, because Alonso has an engine failure, which I actually only noticed right at the last minute, which could have been a lot worse than it was. As we watch a replay here, that's us trying to defend against Hamilton. And then you see just how close we get to smashing into the back of that Alpine. But it actually causes Hamilton a lot more issues than it did us, as obviously he was following us. So he just got stuck behind him, and he's all the way down into, I don't know, 10th, 11th maybe. But it has brought out a safety car. Haven't seen one of these in a little while, I don't think. It's been a little while since I recorded the last video, so I can't actually remember if we had one there. But that is going to just slow the pace down a little bit, let ourselves regain our composure, and means we're not fighting with a Mercedes, which is quite good, but we are fighting with a Red Bull this time. If we get a good enough start on the restart, we can maybe try and do a sneaky dive bomb down the inside of Perez. We will have to see, but I mean, it's only really going to slow us down if we do. But the race has restarted. We get a pretty decent run on Perez, but nowhere near enough. I mean, that first pit straight there isn't exactly long, is it? But this bit is a little bit longer, but we don't have the pace to get past Perez. To be honest, I wasn't really trying to, like I say, because our race really here is keeping Norris and Ocon behind us as we get a little bit twitchy on that exit. Which is going to allow Norris to stay behind us. Almost a repeat of the final few laps of our sprint race. And crossing onto lap 7, DRS is finally enabled. So that is going to help us be dragged along by Perez, basically, as you see. We're skipping forward here to show you that is exactly what we're doing, as Hamilton has managed to get himself... Oh, well, he was in P8. Oh, he is now. He's clearly fighting with Ocon. sounds like Verstappen has an issue with his car as Russell makes a mistake. Ends up beaching it onto the grass. I don't know what happened there. Here we go. Here's a replay. He just gets a bit too excited watching the fighting between the Red Bull and the Ferrari there, I guess, and just loses concentration and parks it into the grass. So that is another position that we have gained for free into P5. As you see, the two Red Bull teammates are fighting very hard here. Clearly, there are no team orders going on yet on the radio, but that allows us to close in, regain the DRS, and I think we have just about managed to pull away from Norris through all of that. He does not have the DRS on us as Verstappen goes deep trying to defend against his teammate Perez, and that allows us to go ahead of him. So that is us now up into P4 on lap 8. However, this does put us in a difficult situation of having Verstappen behind us. Although, by the looks of it, that's not an issue anymore because I think, what is that, Norris trying to go around the outside of Verstappen, and once again Verstappen makes a mistake trying to defend from him, locks up, and Hamilton now is trying to overtake both of them, but it looks like he might be able to just overtake the McLaren there, sending it down the inside of the second to last corner and the last corner, but he gets a little bit too out of shape, and that allows Norris to ward him off for now. That trio of cars behind us is going to be fighting for quite a while, I suspect, but like I say, lap 10, it's allowed us a fair bit of breathing room to the guys behind. 2.6 seconds now to Verstappen. We are well within DRS of Perez. We're even thinking about going for a lunge down the inside there, but we think against it. We might try near the end, like we did in the last race. It was again us versus Perez, which is weird because we should not be anywhere near the Red Bull pace, but they seem to just be making so many mistakes. But we do hear that Leclerc, in the lead of this race, has an issue. So maybe we could get on the podium, who knows? But we are on lap 11 here, on board with Jenson Button, who has got himself past the very slow Williams of Nicholas Latifi, but he's made a huge mistake there, a massive tank slapper. I'm amazed that he even managed to catch that. That is probably going to be catch of the season. He's managed to not end his race there, but that has allowed Latifi to get back ahead of him, and Zhou Guanyu is trying to get past him as well. They're both going to get the DRS here, so it's going to be a simple drag race to the end of this straight to see who can stay ahead. It looks like Button just about outbreaks Zhou there, and he has retained his position there. But he definitely could have done without that tank slapper, because now he's going to be stuck behind the Williams of Latifi for a little while longer than he would have hoped. On to lap 12. Verstappen is gaining time on us because he's managed to pull away from the big old battle between Hamilton and the McLaren. On to lap 13, we are closer than we have ever been to Perez. We think about sending it down the inside. He covers the inside line, so we send it down the outside. Will we be able to get on the power early enough to try and mount an attack? Looks like we do. We send it down the inside of Perez. Does he give us enough space? Just about. We squeeze him as much as we legally can, and that is us up into P3, into the podium positions once again. I mean, if we can salvage another podium out of this, that would be fantastic. I didn't expect to have one podium, let alone looking like we might get two. But Leclerc, with all his issues, has fallen into the sights of his teammate Carlos Sainz, who is, well, understandably thinking that he would like to be in the race lead right now. So they are fighting side by side here. I'm not sure who's going to get the DRS here. Looks like it's going to be Leclerc. Send it to the outside of Carlos Sainz. I mean, the inside line generally is the better line for this corner. But we'll have to see if either of them decide to back out, as even with Leclerc's issue, he is not the sort of driver to back out of these very easily, as he sends it back down the inside of Carlos Sainz. But Sainz does eventually manage to complete the move and put himself up into P1, as behind us, Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez have caught up to us in DRS, but it does mean that they are now fighting each other once again. Now, we saw what happened last time, Max making a mistake, allowing us to get past. let's see if they do it again. They've both got DRS because obviously one of them got DRS on one of the Red Bulls and one of them got it on us. Is Perez going to be able to keep it round the outside? No, they do make a little bit of contact. But Max Verstappen is up ahead of his teammate. And on our tail, we're using a little bit of ERS there to try and stay ahead. Because even though obviously the Red Bulls are faster than us, we would like a podium position. We are going to fight them a little bit harder than we otherwise would. We're not going to fight them too hard because we don't want to lose loads of time and then end up getting overtaken by Hamilton and Lando Norris anyway. But lap 16, we are into the pits. We get a purple turn in there and should get a good time. But our rear left was stuck. Where does that put us? That allows Verstappen to get ahead of us and Lewis Hamilton from miles back. He was like a couple of seconds, I think, behind us. So that stop has cost us a huge amount there. That's allowed Max Verstappen ahead of us, Lewis Hamilton as well. We actually come out slightly ahead of our teammate Button, as you see. But bear in mind, he hasn't been into the pits yet, which is understandable because, like I say, he started in 21st. Perez and Norris ahead of us have not pit yet. We will have to see if we do a decent enough outlap to stay ahead of them. Because bear in mind, Perez was very close to us when we came into the pits. And with our slow stop, hopefully that isn't going to allow the pair to jump us, because that would put us down into 7th, 8th, I think. But we're just about clinging on to the DRS, or we were. We actually have fallen out of DRS of Hamilton as our teammate gets into the pits. Into the first corner here. The Red Bull and the McLaren are coming out of the pits, but actually miles behind. So the undercut has worked on Perez and Norris, and we would have been ahead of Verstappen and Hamilton, still in P3, if it wasn't for that slow stop. So it's actually our team this time, which we've got a problem as well. I was about to say it is our team that has caused us to be out of contention with the podium this time. Maybe we'll have to sack our pit crew, but we might have to sack our engine crew as well, because we have got an issue, although I don't know what it is the problem here. Our overtake is fine, our engine is fine, we're not in lean mode. So I really don't know what the issue is, and apparently it's fixed. Well, that was quick then. As you see, we are understeering all over the place here. We're losing a fair bit of time to Perez behind. He's already made up, well, almost a 10th. And now on to lap 21. He is 4 tenths behind us. He's going to have the DRS. We are having to use a healthy chunk of our own overtake button there to keep ahead of him. And to be honest, what I suspect this issue is, and it is a bug in the game currently that they don't even acknowledge exists by the seams of it, but it's where that your engineer tells you that there's an engine issue, but it actually isn't an engine issue. The only issue is that you understeer all over the place and can lose between like a second to 2 seconds a lap, as we just end up letting Perez get past us by accidentally downshifting instead of upshifting. That was pure driver error there. We pretty much let him through there. To be honest though, not that bad of an idea, as he actually has a pretty poor exit, because we can just use him to drag us along and hopefully keep us ahead of Lando Norris. But Max Verstappen fancies himself the second step on the podium, I think, with Sainz being 6.5 seconds ahead of the group. Has definitely got the win in the bag for Austria, but with Verstappen, Leclerc and Hamilton all having pretty similar pace here, it's going to be interesting as to who's going to be on the podium at the end of this race. Probably Verstappen and Leclerc, but Hamilton is lurking in the background there, especially with the DRS as well. He is able to keep up, and if Verstappen or Leclerc make a mistake going side by side here, you never know, Hamilton might get himself onto the podium. And, I mean, we've seen the Ferraris. Carlos Sainz could have a engine issue. Hamilton could get himself a win, as Verstappen does make a mistake in the end. Gets all squirrely off the exit of that final corner. Lewis Hamilton thinks, you know what, this might be my time to try and get onto the podium. Verstappen perhaps should have backed out there. I don't know. It's always a bit of a tricky situation when Verstappen and Hamilton are going side by side with each other. They do not afford each other any room whatsoever. They are still side by side here. I'm not even sure who is going to pick up the DRS here. Looks like it is Verstappen, so he should just about be able to keep himself ahead of the Mercedes here, as he does. So not much has changed. Leclerc is still in P2. As lap 33, we are very, very, very close to Perez. We use the ERS. Are we going to send it down the outside? We have to, because Perez keeps the inside line here. We brake a little bit earlier, and Perez has a massive lock-up, and that allows us through past the Red Bull into P5. So Sergio Perez's little mistake there. That allows us through as we see a replay here. We go down the outside. We actually brake quite early, pretty much to get the DRS on him, and he just goes a bit too late. Also, I realised earlier I said fighting Perez like we did last race. That's not actually true. I've actually edited the next race in France, I think it is, and I was thinking of that. So a little spoiler there for you. We have some more fighting with the Red Bull of Perez in the next race to look forward to. But lap 35 and Verstappen, he's trying again. He wants to get that position on Leclerc. Leclerc actually did have like a 1.5 second lead after all that fighting, but Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton have managed to catch up to him as they go 3 wide here. Hamilton trying to go down the outside, Max trying to go down the inside. Looks like Hamilton has come out ahead here, but Leclerc has had the better exit and Max has the DRS. Is Max going to try and send down the inside? Doesn't look like it. He's just going to hang back and hope for mistakes up ahead, I guess, as Hamilton is currently the man in P2 after Leclerc has been holding it for so long. But they are side by side here. Leclerc is going to have the outside line, actually. Oh, no, that's it. Hamilton is ahead. There we go. Hamilton into P2, but this fight is not over as Verstappen is going to send it down the inside here. Actually hits Lewis Hamilton there. And Hamilton, I guess, locked up. I don't know. He made a mistake. Probably nervous from being hit by Max Verstappen there. And he's fallen all the way back down to P4. So after all that work, going 3 wide and being the victor of all that carnage, he ends up down in P4. And it doesn't look like Max Verstappen got a penalty for that. So I don't know who is in charge here. Guessing it's Michael Massey. But Leclerc is still not going to give up P2. He wants to make this a Ferrari 1-2. He also has the DRS here, so I don't know if Verstappen is going to have enough straight line speed. He does try and send it down the outside, also bangs into Leclerc's rear tyres. I'm surprised that Red Bull is still going. But on to lap 36, we have managed to stay ahead of Perez and we bring it home in P5. So, there we have it, the end of the Austrian race. We have managed to move ourselves from P8 into P5, which when you think we actually qualified in P17, that is very, very good. Our best was a 107.5, so you can see we definitely weren't on the pace of the guys around us. I mean, Norris 107.0, Perez 107.0, even Ocon did a 107.4. So in terms of the actual pace, we maybe weren't quick enough, but there was so much carnage going on all around us that we were able to capitalise on it and get ourselves into P5. That puts us still, I think, P7 in the constructors, in the drivers, sorry, with 65 points, now 5 points ahead of the Alfa Romeo, and we are now at 100 points in P5 in the constructors, with Alpine only 101. Now, if you saw the performance chart, Alpine's quite low down there, so we should easily be able to get ahead of them and hopefully be P4 in the constructors by the end of this season. But other than that, thank you very much for watching. Make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss our next race in France.